What's up, beautiful people? We are the Millennial Community, and this is the Knockin on 30 podcast. What's up, everybody? Y'all good?
Good.
We're
Yeah,
good.
we're good.
We got a special guest in the house tonight.
Yes, we do. What's up?
girl.
What's
Hello.
up?
Thank you for having me.
The mogul, the beautiful, the
Stop.
wonderful. Okay. Get all the points I can. My wife, Crystal, and she is a extended part of our family of the Millennial Community. So we have her on the show tonight. Everybody
Most
good? Everybody
definitely.
good?
Oh, yeah.
Thank y'all. Always family.
So we had some interesting stuff happen over the weekend. Let's get right into it. Dennis, you had a trip.
Yes.
Wanna tell us about
So, took a trip to Washington, D.C. To go out there, man. Very historical place, by the way. Got a chance to see a lot while I was out there. And this was a 3-day trip. So, got a chance to go see what the city is all about when it comes to the food. And that was a very nice restaurant. And then we got straight to seeing the city. So, as you'll be looking at a few different pictures, we started out with visiting the White House. This was a tour of the entire National Mall. Definitely suggest, if you've never been to D.C., to make that trip happen, because a lot of what we hear in elementary, middle school, it all came to real life for me. And even though like a lot of it is like monuments and memorials of like what stuff looked like, the stories behind how we got there and like how the monument came about, it was dope. And I even taught history for a little while, so a lot of this was me saying like, dude, like my curriculum is like right here in front of me. So it was great. The city overall is different. They always talk about how Southern hospitality has a true definition. I will agree with that. You don't really see a lot in that area when it comes to like how hospitable people can be. They're kind of very like straight to business, and this is all we want to talk about, all we want to do. But the city itself had a lot to offer, and I definitely enjoyed it while I was out there. One of the pictures that I definitely want to spend a little bit of time talking about was the latest monument. That was the MLK monument that's out there. And they actually have next to it like walls of words that really brought in a lot of the things that he said pre-1964 and things that he said post-1964 to really bring about the civil rights and et cetera. And so that particular monument stood out to me the most because it is the most recent, but was also the most relatable for myself to really talk about as a people how we got to where we are, how much his speech really impacted our country and et cetera. So overall, super dope trip, and just advise anybody to go out there if you haven't been. So traveling as a millennial put a lot into perspective for me. One thing in particular was, why do I go to my job every day? And being able to have the opportunity to travel with this job, I think, is a benefit to work in corporate. But the one thing it really started to make me think about was my passion projects. So I want to introduce tonight's topic of the show, which is going to be talking about entrepreneurship, why millennials go there, and things that really drive us towards it. And so just thinking and having that time for myself, it definitely said like, hey, go back and grind so you can get to the goals that you want to get to. And I think for where a lot of us are right now as millennials, we're in that 9 to 5 having that thought, and it's just a passion project right now. So to just think, how do I turn that into taking me away from the 9 to 5, there was a lot of thought put there. And I think for those that are in corporate, why do we want to go entrepreneur if that is our desire?
Question for you. Was Trump there?
He wasn't.
Oh, okay. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Nah,
what
ain't got
was
no
the
question.
political climate like?
So right there in front of the White House, it was hot. And it was hot from like protesters to locals to tourists. I mean, it was just like a melting pot of people. And you had a lot of people out there that were really kind of I guess you say promoting current things that are happening. So, you know, a lot about the wall coming and who's for it, who's against it. There was actually a gentleman out there with a sign that said, build the wall. So you can imagine.
He was mad because he was a black dude, though, right? Go ahead and tell the truth.
So I did.
Go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, and as y'all know, it really did grind my gears.
Oh, Lord.
It did. I had a little moment, and I asked the guy, I'm like, so like really, like, why are you out here, you know, like supporting the build of the wall? And his answer to me really was nothing that had to do with like the reason that the wall's been built. He more so said, well, this is what this administration wants, so this is what they should get. And I was like, but that's not your reason as to why this wall should be built. And he never really gave that.
Did you say he was out there taking dollars, like taking pictures for $1?
He was, dog. If you wanted like a selfie with him holding that sign, you have to donate to his protest cause.
Dang, that was a little bit of
Yeah.
COON right there. If you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
It was.
That's entrepreneurship.
That's entrepreneurship. You know, that segues right
Capitalism.
back into the topic.
Yeah.
So a few of us got these shirts on. So like, let's talk about these shirts and these businesses. So Crystal, you want to tell the world about your business that you representing tonight?
Okay, so tonight I'm representing my wedding videography business. Show the shirt, girl.
Let them know.
So, what I do is I basically service wedding videography, obviously, and then, but it's not just the wedding and reception. The difference in what I want to incorporate is to actually capture other memorable moments in between. So it's not just your big day, but it's everything else leading up to it besides the proposal, like the rehearsal dinner, the bridal shower. If you want to have like any type of food tasting or venue viewing, anything, because people nowadays, it's like you see all these different ideas and creativity showing up all over, and with social media and everything, it's kind of like, right, Pinterest, you have so many ideas, and I just thought what better way to capture different moments and put my own creative twist to it, because now people are doing like wedding promo videos, like, you know, you have save the dates, and so it's like, okay, here's another concept, and everything's just evolving and kind of changing, and so I kind of wanted to tap into that. That's one thing that I specialize differently than other people that I noticed, but that's what I'm representing tonight.
And I love the name, by the way.
Thank
It's
you.
just perfect. It's got that little ring to it, literally.
Yes. Here Comes the Bride.
Aw.
Yes.
Very fitting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Dennis, what you rocking over there? Look like some Jimmy Neutron stuff.
Man, hey, and so I will tell y'all, so what I'm rocking tonight is Tech Genius Solutions. This is a company that was started by one of my best friends from high school, and this is a tech consulting company that definitely deals with how to integrate different technology into your business. So everything from POS systems to security cameras, and even being able to just consult, like, how do I do better at using technology in my business for, you know, lower customer acquisition costs, how do I communicate, etc. And so the idea behind the genius part of it has nothing to do with being the smartest, but having that one moment that's like, man, that's genius if I'm able to do this rather than doing that. And so Tech Genius Solutions has definitely been around for going on 3 to 4 years now. And it's out there. His name is Lester Kirk, by the way, and he's hired different contractors to kind of help him grow his business and et cetera. But it's definitely millennial, and he started this rather than going corporate. So been a lot of success over the years, and I tip my hat to him.
And I want to say kudos to him, because the fact that it is a tech company is something different that you don't normally see people going into. And so,
Definitely.
you know, to hear that other people are going into that type of environment and business per se, you know, it just gives us more of the opportunity to support and be able to go to those people and, you know,
Big time.
support them.
Oh yeah,
Because we need it.
Speaking of support, y'all have any businesses y'all supporting right now that you want to plug out there to the world, or are you good?
No. I mean, not that there aren't any really great ones out there, of course.
Yeah.
And please forgive me, friends, that I'm forgetting.
Don't come for me. Don't come for me.
I'll put them on the
Right.
spot.
I
did.
feel bad, because it was like, I know people that have businesses, and I
Yeah.
should have their shirt.
Yeah. I wore
But I
my
just-
shirt the first day, so.
There you go.
Yeah.
She did. She
Yeah.
did.
You can't double
Yeah,
back.
no, I can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it's been time
Yeah.
since then, they don't
True.
understand.
Still.
They don't
Right. You watch everything at once.
Right.
But, I
Exactly.
mean, this is just, I'm representing millennial community.
There you go.
Yeah.
No,
Big
This is
absolutely.
our
millennial.
shirt.
Big
so-
change, baby.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
for sure.
How about you, Tony?
Yeah, I was about to.
Yeah.
Your
What
turn.
you, what you got over there,
No,
man?
yeah, I was about to say. So I have my shirt on. It is the Blue Chip Works polo. So Blue Chip Works is a company that I founded. It kind of spurred off of my consulting company, and then it kind of just grew into its another leg of my business, really. So I do consulting work with companies, mainly with communications, outsourcing, working with companies in their departments to make them better. I got some big gigs that are coming up that I'm waiting on some contracts to get signed on. I'm very excited about that. And then, just with the communication side of my business, we actually are able to hire people to work from home as customer service representatives for local businesses as well as Fortune 500 companies. So some companies literally just need like somebody to just literally answer the phone, but we can go all the way up to somebody actually interacting with your customers on behalf of your company on your website. So we can kind of build some very customizable solutions for businesses. So it's really exciting. I mean, it's like growing every day. Like it's pretty sick. Like phone be blowing up, I just be like, it's crazy. I like to unplug.
Right. There's no more of that.
Right.
It's hard.
There's
like,
no more Sundays off.
I can't do 24/7, but I do still do. Like, I get like 10 hours in.
Okay.
I just don't be on no type of nothing. But then I'm like, am I missing money? So
sometimes he miss my calls.
Oh,
I'm joking. We're not even gonna go there. Well, it's not even. I know, but then I forget, and I'm like, oh yeah, I forget he's unplugging because something will come up. I'm like, oh, I need to tell him.
Or she'll be like, when I first started doing this, she would pull her phone and be like, oh my God, Tony, watch this video. I'm like, I told you I'm unplugging right now.
Literally guard his eyes. But it's my phone, it's not yours. So
That's that discipline.
It is discipline.
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 Balance.
Yeah, man, you gotta have it.
Speaking of discipline, so Delane and I are reading this book kind of same time. And discipline is one of the things that the book talks about. The book we're reading is called The Millionaire Mind. And
Get it.
Yes.
Get this book.
Yes, get
By
that
who?
book. The same guy that wrote The Millionaire Next Door. So everybody's familiar with that book. So if you're not, I don't know. I don't remember his name. But we I was like, I still don't know who that is. But
I'm gonna look it up. Amazon tell you everything.
But discipline is like one of the number one or number two things that they say that entrepreneurs need in general. And so I was just bringing that up because the topic tonight is entrepreneurship. But why are we so attracted to entrepreneurship? I feel like that's like a very robust question that can go into all types of different avenues. But like, why are we just mentioned like 4 or 5 businesses, like why are millennials so attracted to entrepreneurship? Like what is it?
So one reason that I'll bring up, I think is pretty interesting, is I read an article on LinkedIn that was an open letter to management. Why are millennials quitting on you? And one of the things that it talked about was that they don't feel like they're getting a personal kind of touch on the company. And so when you read various articles that talk about millennials in the workplace, one thing that I have found to be common, and this is just like a random Google search, right? But one thing that I found common is that we want to make an impact whenever we're at a company.
Buzzword.
Definitely. And so
Simon
just to
Sinek.
kind of kick off one why is, well, if I go and I start my own company, I am making that direct impact because it's something I'm passionate about, it's something I want to do, and so I'm making that impact every day. And you were just saying, Tony, how unplugging is kind of a way that you remain disciplined. However, when you plug back in, that you're making that direct impact, towards whatever your passion is. And so if you're just kind of considered a number amongst the masses, and there's like almost no support from management, which I know we'll probably dive deeper into, but if I'm just seen as a number, I'm just another employee that comes into this big company and nothing of what I'm doing moves or shakes anything, and it's just kind of like adds to the list, and I'm never told like, hey, because you did this is now happening, or our company is now growing. I'm just showing up every day, like collecting the check, going home with whatever frustrations from the day, etc. So I think a lot of millennials may be moving from this like big company aspect to feel that they are making that direct impact towards whatever their passion is.
It's a good point in why you said, because I went into entrepreneurship, what is that, like 2015. So it's been almost 4 years that I've started this journey, and it kind of, like what you said, kind of hit right on. It made me kind of resonate when you brought up the article and the reasonings why. And it wasn't that I didn't feel like the work that I did was making an impact or not, but it was more so like I knew what I was doing, and in the back of my mind, I would even tell Tony, I was like, I see the results of my work, even if I may not get acknowledged for the work that I'm doing at amongst, you know, the company or, you know, what have you, I know what impact that I can make, and I know what I could do by myself without any assistance from anybody else or somebody saying something to me. And so that kind of made me want to branch out, like you said, and be more direct in like working with people one-on-one and giving them, you know, the exposure, or helping them with their business or their nonprofit, and giving them the insight or creating that visual perspective, because, you know, it went into videography. And so that kind of was the first avenue that I took when I left my corporate job. And it's been great since. And, you know, the feedback, the testimonials you receive, you know, is right then and there. And that to me is more impactful than just you know, being
seeing
generic.
the fruits of your own
Yeah,
labor.
exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, one thing I'll say though is like I had funny, I had posted this on Instagram like a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. But I was thinking about entrepreneurship and how it's such a buzzword, such a popular thing that millennials are doing or whatever. And you know, like I feel like some people get it twisted and they think that entrepreneurship means you have to start a business. And I personally don't think that that's what entrepreneurship is, because if you want to, I think entrepreneurship, as far as millennials go, I think it's that we want to be free, we want to feel like we're doing valuable work, we want to feel like our impact is being heard and made and all that stuff. But I feel like if you have a strong skill set, you can take your skill set and work with somebody else on a vision that they might have, where it's their company, but you are lending your services to work with them, and then y'all in turn create the freedom and the value that you actually are looking for. Like everybody doesn't need to start a business. That's basically what I'm trying to say. But that don't mean that if it's not like, I think we have it confused that some people think it's start a business or work in corporate forever. And it don't have to be that. It could be work with a friend's business and take your skill set that you would be doing in corporate with this friend's business, and now everybody wins. You're not in corporate feeling like a number, but you're not burdened with trying to start a business that you might not even need to start in the first place. That's just, I don't know. What do y'all think about that? I'm interested to know. Why would you say?
I said I agree.
And I think from the category of it, right? So when you think about entrepreneurship to that point, it's more of like a category. So if I think about corporate, like my skill set at corporate, it's like, oh, I work for this like big business, but this is what I do. But when I think about, hey, I took like a skill that I have and I applied it to like this growing company that, you know, was like like you said, my friend's business, and he's the entrepreneur that like did it, but I work for an entrepreneurship based company. And so like when you think about like the different scales and categories of that, being an entrepreneur is, to your point, like I have this great skill that I use on the daily and it helps grow, you know, like a business that a friend has. And so that to me is like more of a true definition to the title and the word entrepreneurship than being like, oh, I want to go out and start like my own business and like I'm a CEO. It's like, okay, being a CEO don't make you an entrepreneur, because we've seen some cases where people thought that and they weren't as successful.
So what's the risk like for entrepreneurs, like for people you may know or just yourself personally, like, or maybe if you thought about being an entrepreneur but you didn't want to do it, like what's the risk in like doing it?
No days off, right?
You say
No days off, like birthdays, holidays, that's all out the window. I think you said the other day, you was like, oh, you was making a call, you forgot it was Christmas.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. A friend of mine who, she is a cake artist, and she came out from like Wednesday to Saturday, and it was like her spring break, and she's taking the days off, and every single day she spent like several hours doing emails or ordering supplies or like going through her inventory. So it really is no days off. Like I think a big risk with entrepreneurship is like that sink or swim. Like everything relies on you. It's not like you can show up and kind of chill at your job for a couple hours. You don't feel like working. That's fine. You still getting paid. Yeah. But it's more of, if I don't put in this work, if I don't do this, then I don't have anywhere to live.
And that goes back to discipline. Yeah, you got to have discipline to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And I think another risk that a lot of people may factor into entrepreneurship is that with companies, you get certain things like a 401k.
True.
You know, like pensions are played out, but at least you get maybe a 401k that can help build. They may match it. And then along with that is a lot of times health benefits.
Sick days.
Yeah.
Ain't
And
no
so,
sick days.
ain't no sick days as an entrepreneur, you know, and you really have to focus on how do I take care of myself, because my company or anything that I'm a part of, you know, it depends on me. So like I have to be there. And so, man, it's a risk. Like she says, kind of taking that step and that leap. It's like, man, I'm about to go and lose all of this that I got at this company. And so you have to ask yourself, is it worth it? But if your vision is right, it'll carry you.
Back to that book that we were talking about earlier, The Millionaire Next Door and The Millionaire Mind. Thomas J. Stanley is the author, by the way. They talked about that, like, when you are, especially an entrepreneur, like, it talked about being a millionaire in general. The categories are, like, people who are entrepreneurs and business owners, as well as doctors, high-paid corporate executives. Like, they broke it down
attorneys,
to, like, attorneys,
engineers, accountants,
exactly. And with at least I think a part that I read, for the entrepreneur specifically, being in, like, tip-top health shape is like it's like mandatory from a health standpoint, but also from like a physicality standpoint and how you're treated as a business owner and how your employees.
Perception is everything. It was kind of like, you think that, but for them to actually say like how big of a role that plays in meditation, like I know you're doing like consistently, I'm like, I really do need to start meditating. So I found I do a guided one in the morning now, and I think it really does help set the tone for my day. But like pretty much outside of that book, I feel like any book I read about entrepreneurship or business, they always say like being in physical, you know, health and making sure you go to the gym and meditate and all that stuff played a really big role in
That's
it.
interesting.
What's the meditation that you use? You said it's a guided one. What is it called, or where? If other people want to try it, like,
it was just on YouTube. It was about abundance and money, because I need abundance.
I need money. Okay, so YouTube, abundance and money.
Right. Right. I just like keep it at like 10 or 15 minutes, because they have some that last like hours. I was like, maybe I need to play this while I'm asleep so it can sink in. They have like 8 hours long, but like. So it can just sink in. Like, I need everything coming my way right now.
What'd you say?
Good.
All right, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What?
No, a good one app that you can use to start meditation is Headspace.
I was about to say that.
That's the one I used when I first
one.
started. Yeah.
Did you say something about sleep in? You play it when you sleep?
No, I wanted to play it when I sleep, because they have some that are like 8 hours long. I'm like, who's listening to this? Like,
the only thing I want to listen to is rain when I fall asleep. I'm putting on the rainfall.
She want the acoustics.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I do that though. Like, I listen to voice recordings while I'm sleeping. So
your own voice?
I have, yeah, absolutely.
That's creepy.
Hey, it worked.
Yeah, it does work.
What are you saying?
I just say all
Tell
these
me.
wonderful things about myself to myself, and then like when I wake up, I feel great.
Is this you, God? Wake up in the morning confused.
I mean, the thing is, like, you gotta, you know, like, aside from all of that stuff, you, especially if you like trying to be an entrepreneur, whatever you're trying to do, this, if it's like a big thing, you have to tell yourself and believe that you are whatever, because if not, when first sign of doubt creeps in, you could like crumble. Like, you could be like, I can't do it anymore. This isn't for me, or I knew I shouldn't have did this. And that will, like, I read a quote and I tweeted this. Tony N. Holmes, you know, you can follow me on Twitter.
Shameless plug.
I think it's at the bottom of the lower third. Mike, hook me up. No, I'm playing. But like, I tweeted this. It said like, it was Napoleon Hill. He said, indecision leads to doubt. Like, when you're indecisive, you're like, I don't know if I want to do this or not. You will start to doubt.
Think and Grow Rich?
Yep.
It was Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. That's true.
Yeah. So
we got a
been
title.
on.
And on.
Right.
Yeah. No, but entrepreneurship is risky though.
It is. It definitely is. And I think it's far beyond just the leap of doing it. Like, a lot of people find out once they start doing it what all comes with it, like far beyond the things that we mentioned. And when it really starts to like hit your pocket, that's when you like, man, what did I really sign up for?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even consider that going into it.
No,
they just got this little stash and they want that stash to keep going.
What are some risks that you both took? Do you have any examples of like personal
I think time. I think time for us both, like we're both family oriented with our like parents and siblings and stuff, but like we just sometimes we can't make everything, and I know that hurts like both on both sides, and you know, like, but it's either sometimes it boils down to like doing what you have to do like for your work or whatever, spending time with each other, spending your personal time for yourself, and then you have your family. So it's like somewhere like something's gotta lose. So you can't do everything.
Which ultimately kind of leads to, do I make a sacrifice, or it's like almost like, do I go to the library or go to the party? It's like you gotta, you know, you almost gotta decide like, all right, what
that's what you choose between the library and the party.
I'm just saying, man, my college days is real.
But that kind of pretty much what you said, and like you said, like the social aspect. I know with people, it's celebrations and parties and things like that, and you know, like especially when it comes to birthdays, and like a lot of people now, they're like getting married, having baby showers, and all this stuff. So I find myself, and Tony always said something, because I try to make everything. So I'm like, okay, I got this from this hour. Their event isn't until like 2, but then after that, I have this other evening thing. He's like, you need to take a break, because you can't just make everything. I was like, but I don't want to miss, because I know how important it is for that person. And you know, when you, and I'm very sentimental, I'm Cancer, so you know, I'm very emotional, so it's like I don't want to come off as that friend that, you know, all of a sudden just fell off. Right. You know, so given that perception, so that kind of goes into mine. But nowadays, I feel like because people understand that and they know that about me, they appreciate when I'm able to be there. And it's not necessarily like, oh, you didn't make it. And, you know, there's like an attitude. Because I would start to create scenarios like, if I don't, then this is, But it's not even like that. It's just me.
Yeah, that's why I always say, like, the grind, especially with the grind we're on together, it's temporary. Like, it's temporary. Like, one day you'll look up, you'll be glad you did all that. Then you'll have all the time in the world for people. Right. Yet, you know, hopefully living an amazing life, you know, at the same time. So that you got time for everything. But it's a grind. Like, you got to dig deep. Like, I think people think it's easy. It is not easy being an entrepreneur, especially being young and, you know, up against the obstacles you're up against on a daily basis.
Yeah, but I think that applies to every stage of life. I think, you know, like I've mentioned this before, but my mom's an entrepreneur, and it's like constant, like, and she never left corporate, so she will have like her full-blown business and have to worry about staff and people not doing stuff right and leaving it like in somebody else's hand while she's doing her day job, and it just does not turn off.
That's a beast.
Like, when you think about sacrifice, it's like, you know, sometimes you sacrifice your family. Sometimes you sacrifice, you know, like outside of your time, like the things that you get to do with someone else. I think, like, you know, I might catch my mom every couple weeks because she's just so busy. So it's just like a lot that kind of goes into it.
Yeah, and I definitely commend her for that, because, man, working corporate and trying to be an entrepreneur.
And has like a managerial position.
Oh, man.
Like, so she's leading a staff at work and then like has her own personal
So
staff.
she double staff.
Yeah, and that's really important, especially like for our listeners. I actually want to share some advice to Delenn's point, because when you're really trying to do both, that has to be temporary, and it has to be at a point where you have a goal and you have a focus, that when I leave here at 5 o'clock, now is when my entrepreneur job starts. So you almost kind of look at it like, when do I sleep? And I'm sure she probably gets asked that question a lot.
Yeah. I feel like if I want to get a hold of her, I have to call like 3 times in a row. So then she knows, okay, she's serious. Let me call her back.
Yeah.
Dang.
And if anybody asks her how she does it, she probably doesn't have an answer. It's like she just,
Knows
and that's what that grind has to be like. Like, you have to leave there at 5 o'clock saying, I'm going to put in this work because I want to get to a a point where I don't have to wake up to be at a job at 9 to get off at 5, because those are 8 hours right there that if you get into that life of entrepreneurship, that is going to be a lot more important to you to say, hey, I now have a full 24 to like get this done and get my job done versus saying, oh, I'm going to go to this 9 to 5, and then when I leave there, oh man, on my lunch break, I want to go and make this run. It makes it very difficult, and I've been there, so I feel you.
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna ask, so when it comes to like leadership qualities though, because I got this thing, I feel like if like to really be an entrepreneur, you got to be a great leader, and I feel like to be a great leader, you got to have leadership experience in some capacity. What's your thoughts on that though?
That's true. And I think it's not so much on even like the details and the specifics of what leadership looks like, because for everybody that looks different, and for the companies that you may seek to run, that could also look different. But I think that you do need to have this natural vibe of how do I manage people, at least at the end of the day, even if you're not like the leader of the pack, like at least be above the pack enough to say like, I know at least how to like manage this group to like navigate us from point A to point B, because as an entrepreneur, everybody's looking at you to have that answer ready to go whenever a problem or issue comes up. And so prior experience before actually being in that role is very necessary. Even if it's just reading a book, because they always say if you're not learning, then you're not earning. And so at that point, you got to be able to say like, am I ready for this in more capacity than just stepping out there and doing it? Like, how are you preparing yourself? Because preparation is really going to tell the key once you get started.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry.
what prerequisite would you recommend someone to have before?
That's a good question. Man, that's a good question. I would say it depends on where you are. It depends on what you're doing. Like if you work a corporate job, you definitely need to have your thing going on the side and just basically be focused on that thing. Like don't have a corporate job, a side hustle, and then all these various different topics going on that you got going on top of everything. Because if you really are trying to make the leap over, then you need to basically have your corporate job and that thing, and that kind of be almost it. So that when you do leap over, you're not all over the place with all these various different things that you have going on, and then you're trying to like still run this now new business that you have full time, but yet you still are pulled in all these different directions. Like I know for me personally, like as soon as I went full time, like I like dropped off the earth. Like even with y'all, like I like disappeared, and it was like for like months, like at least 2, maybe 3. Like, what's going on? Like what are we doing next? And then like the first person I came to obviously was outside of you, of course. It was then it's to tell them like, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. If we're gonna keep doing this thing, it got to be different, because this is how much time I got in my pie for this. And like a lot of other stuff got completely cut off, and I'm sure people was like, he's a jerk, like I ain't heard from him, where's he been, whatever. But like it doesn't matter, because I know that like the prerequisite for me is to make sure that I'm not stretched too thin. And that's why I meditate. That's why I do all this, because I have been stretched too thin. If you stretch too thin, you're no good for nobody. Like how you gonna be good to lead people in a company if you're not good to yourself? Like
That's true. That's very true.
Well, something really interesting. So when I was like thinking about this topic, and it touches on like what you're saying. So the quote was, millennials are learning that starting a company, even if it crashes and burns, teaches them more in 2 years than sitting at a cubicle for 20 years does. And I feel like that's really true, because you are learning so much. But with that, I don't know if you like have to go into it and already be a leader, because that's something that you're going to learn along the way. Because most of the time you're starting off by yourself anyway, until you start to bring other team members on. And then it's just this entire learning process. So something that you're doing doesn't work. But then you might lose staff, you might lose like your business partner, but then you get to learn from that and you get to start over. So in that entire process you're building. So I think it kind of puts a little bit of pressure on you to think, I have to have it all together, I have to have the finance together, I have to have the leadership portion together, because that will come with it.
Yeah, I give you that, because people gonna leave, people gonna do whatever they're gonna do. I think having leadership qualities is a benefit to being an entrepreneur. I'll say that.
Yeah.
There's this person, is this author's name, Dennis Kimbrough. He's a doctor. He's a professor, but he's a doctor, and he always talks about entrepreneurship leadership, I can't remember exactly how many phases, but he mentioned these phases of leadership. It's like where you're like, basically you have your corporate job and you're thinking about it, then you have your corporate job or whatever, then you got your side thing, and then you switch over and now you have your side thing, you got your business, you got your office space, whatever you got going on, and then you start to hire people on. That's the managerial phase. And he said between the managerial phase and the leadership phase is where people fall off. He said because you got to go from managing people to leading people.
Yeah.
And that's a whole different thing. And I see that now because of the previous things I've done, I actually didn't have a problem switching over. And I'll tell you how I found out. It wasn't me saying it. It was the fact that I have interns in my office that work with me. Well, work with me. I never say work for me, but they work with me. And they're not getting paid. Like, they're coming here, they're not getting paid, and they come in early in the morning. I got one girl who catches the bus to get here at Metro, and I think that one of the reasons that they come back is because I'm here bright and early. Good morning, smiling. You want some tea? Like, first thing in the morning, making sure they're logged in on their computers appropriately. These are grown people too. These aren't just like fresh out of high school or whatever. Like,
yeah.
And I'm like leading them, and they know I'm gonna be there. They know they can count on me. Blah blah blah. Even though they're like, I wonder how old he is. That's probably what they wonder. But I think that's a benefit. So I rescind my point earlier, and I agree with that.
I mean, I'm just saying, I think they really do go hand in hand, because it's like so many people do want to start a business, but there's already like this amount of self-doubt. So I think that when you just kind of open yourself up to the opportunity and know that you don't have to have all of your ducks in a row, it makes it easier, because you're going to learn those things along the way.
That is true. And no matter how you initiate the experience, there's always something to learn, because I just think of organizations I was involved in, even just at a member level. It's like, you kind of see how other people do it. And I think one thing to really carry from a corporate environment to entrepreneur environment is, what did you learn from other people? And I think as millennials, we do spend some time saying like, well, I saw this person on Instagram. I saw it's like some type of like media platform that we have seen somebody do what we're seeking to do, but there's always going to be that list of like what you like versus what you didn't like. And I think the answer really comes down to, what are you carrying out that people are going to draw that list up about yourself? And so if you're learning from other people, then your list of what not to do may be very different than what theirs is, based on your own perception. And so as you kind of start to like work that chart out for people that are following you, whether you're the manager, you're the leader, whatever, those prior experiences really kind of start to speak to how successful you are and at what rate that you're successful, because the prerequisite question that Brianna proposed, I think where that kind of helps people out is cutting the time of how soon do I become successful based on what I knew before I started. However, there's a big part of that you're going to learn as you're doing it, because that self-doubt is there before you start doing it. But once you start doing it, you kind of start believing it more and more and more. And I think a lot of what we've done just as millennial community has been, okay, can we do this? And then we start doing it. It's like, oh man, we can't do this, and I mean, it's led to the podcast. I mean, like we, talked about episode 1 of just the Chipotle story, and it's like, here we are, so, you think about the Chipotle story, it's like very doubtful. Can we bring millennials together in the 3rd largest city? And then boom, like, here's a platform, here's a way that we're actually making it happen.
That's very well said. I think 2 more things that is important is integrity. Like, you individually being integrable and being a person
Personal
of good
brand.
character.
I wish I had my list. I think I texted it to you, all the things from the book.
Did I say? Oh, wait.
The first one was integrity.
Yeah, and the next one I'm about to say is from the book too, and it's faith.
Yes.
Like,
Faith,
you gotta have faith. And what surprised me in the book is a lot of the millionaires in the book or whatever, and entrepreneurs, et cetera, whatever, they are all highly, religious, or they have a lot of faith. I don't want to use the word religious, but they definitely are high faith, because otherwise you would definitely crash and burn.
Right.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in it, if you don't believe in yourself, then who else? How can you sell it to someone else that you're worth buying into? Like, that's just crazy.
And so, kind of reflecting back on the DC trip, like FDR, he actually had on one of the walls as you walk through, like the monument, is the only fear to have is fear itself. And so, when you think about that idea of like, do I take this leap? And I know Will Smith had also quoted this in like a YouTube video as well. But when you think about like the only fear to have is fear itself, it's like, well, if you're not scared to do anything, you just kind of go and make it happen. But it starts with believing in yourself, believing that vision that you have, and then from there you start overcoming a lot.
Right.
Two crazy things that had helped me decide on whether or not I was gonna. Well, one of them helped me decide if I was gonna go into entrepreneurship for real, and then the other one, kind of like carried me forward when I did jump. It's so crazy. I got 2 fortune cookies, right? I went to a Chinese spot. 2 fortune cookies, like 6 months apart, maybe. Both of them, basically the bottom line of both of them, they said these words: "Be bold," like in both of them. And I was like, "Ooh," like that, like touched me, because it's like I'm very like I'm really humble. I'm really like chill. Like I don't like doing a lot, but it's like be bold. Like you have to be bold in order to get things done, and that's like what Seth Godin and a lot of other like tech leaders and stuff talk about. You just got to be bold and just go out there. Like, who cares what people think? And it's like,
right,
that's hard.
That's very hard.
That's hard.
Especially like now with everything like being on such a big platform for everybody to see. Like,
you can't take that back. It's gonna haunt you.
Yeah. And one important thing I will mention to all millennials is make sure you have mentors that are not millennials. Like, get a mentor from the other generation above you.
Yes.
Because that has definitely helped me out for sure. I have one mentor. We go to lunch once a month. He just comes to my office just to see like how it's looking. Like make sure I'm doing good. Like Crystal Dawes. Like he'll just bring lunch over there. He literally just like making sure that I'm okay. Like checking on my space and stuff like that. And then another one, just all types of older people that are definitely pouring. And without them, I don't think I would be a successful entrepreneur. I'd just be another millennial complaining about, whatever. So,
no, that's true.
Yeah.
With that being said, as we talk about generations and whatnot, we're going to reach back for this word of the week.
Yeah, I'm ready for this one.
So the word of the week today is crunk.
Oh, Lord. Just make me want to do the chicken head.
So where were y'all when y'all were using the word crunk?
I was definitely.
I was in high school.
I was in middle
It
school.
was like,
I think
it middle
I want to say it was middle. It was definitely middle school.
Yeah.
middle school, high school.
Lil Jon?
Yeah, like
middle
Lil Jon.
school.
Yep,
Yeah,
Yin Yang
that
Twins. Crunk. That was definitely the word. And it was kind of funny because I think of other words that happened during that time too. But like crunk definitely stood out. And I guess you say they're related to modern day like Gen Z terms, like everybody getting lit now.
Yeah,
Right.
That was
Why
the
did you
thing.
say it like that?
I don't know. I
Right.
just had to say it
all
'cause-
cringy, like
Right.
yeah, it's
Cringy.
just I don't know.
Like,
It
you
don't,
don't use it.
nah, it don't roll off my tongue like that. Like I don't
So
say
you
like
on-
I'm trying to get lit.
On a Saturday, you
Nah.
ain't trying to get. What you
I
trying to
say
do?
it.
Nah, I'm trying to like
Unwind.
step back. I don't
Step
know.
out.
It
Step
depends.
out.
Like,
Step in the name of love.
I mean, you just
We're not saying
I
that.
know.
y'all know I got an old soul though, so
we
y'all can't
know.
look at me for the words. 'Cause I know it ain't lit. That's not in my vocabulary.
So I just looked up I googled when was Lil Jon popular, and it was from 1997 to 2004. That was his era.
Yeah.
So
That
Lil
was
Jon and
middle
the East
school.
Side Boys.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
that's
Yeah,
right.
that
Makes
was middle
sense.
school.
Yeah,
That was
good
middle school.
7-year. Yeah, wow, that was middle school for me as well.
Yep, get
Oh.
crunk.
Yeah, I know.
On this side?
that
Okay.
side. Knocking on 30.
Ooh, yes, you are. I'm
Then
sorry.
maybe I was in elementary school.
Uh-oh.
Now we really showing our age.
Man, y'all hilarious. Any closing remarks?
Man,
This
I'll
is
say
awesome.
it's gonna be interesting to see what comes after lit. Cause we got crunk, now you got lit, so it's gonna be next.
I'm scared.
I can't think of anything. It's all too much for me. I can't keep up. So
I turn to social media for it. They always give us the answer.
Yeah, just stay in the
Yeah.
classroom. You'll find out sooner or later.
right. That's true.
Especially when you hear it in the hallway. It's
Yeah,
like,
you
wait,
like,
what you
what?
just said?
Right.
I really be like, repeat what you just said. And what context is that used? that's wild.
I think in closing, I just want for anybody who has a business idea just to go for it. Like, don't let anything stand in your way. Just be bold and have courage, and remember to have integrity, and remember to treat people well, because that's a really big part of it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Facts. Well said. And with that being said, we are the Millennial Community, bringing you another episode of the Knockin on 30 podcast. You can follow us on all social media platforms at the Millennial Community. You can also catch this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, YouTube, and no, we're not on Facebook Live. I was gonna say that because we not too old, basically.
Ooh,
On the website.
Just kidding. All right. So anyway, y'all have a great rest of your day. Peace out. Catch us next week.